The 6 days of creation. When God the first day created the function of time. Second day he made the function of weather. Third day he made the basis for food. Fourth day he made the basis of the calendar. Fifth day he made the functions of the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea. On the sixth day he made the animals and human beings. Then in Genesis chapter 2, basically we saw day 7 when God rested. And we said there that when God rested, he did not literally rest, but he ruled in the temple. And there God made, in Genesis chapter 2, man in his image and in his likeness. And he said it was not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. And there God made Adam and Eve. In Genesis chapter 3, we saw a new being that entered, and that would be the serpent. And when the serpent came, all of a sudden, chaos was in the picture. And what Satan did is he tempted Adam and Eve to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And that meant that they would like to live independent of God. And unfortunately, indeed, they ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God said, the moment you eat of it, you shall surely die. And there, Adam and Eve was cast out of the Garden of Eden. And if you remember, when they were being cast out, they were resisting it. They didn't want to be cast out of east of the garden. And when they left Eden, they had to start a family. Cain came in, Abel came in. Both of them worshipped. One was acceptable and the other was not. And there we saw Cain kill Abel. Very sad from a simple disobedience in Genesis chapter 3. Now it leads to murder. And in Genesis chapters 4, we saw the descendants of Cain, culminating with Lamech, who was a proud, arrogant man. With Cain the death of Cain, a new line should come up, and that the line is the line of Seth. And there we saw what makes the line of Seth significant is that the seventh is Enoch. Enoch walked with God compared to Lamech on the line of Seth. So that's basically Genesis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth is mga descendants. In chapter 6, we saw the sons of God marrying the daughters of men. Sin became very rampant. There was no stopping as the population was exploding. Sin was also exploding, and God could not take it anymore. He said He will wipe out the whole civilization in chapter 6, and told Noah to build an ark. Chapter 7 was the flood. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and basically what happened there was they were out at sea for a year and 11 days. That was chapter 7. Chapter 8, God remembered Noah, and the water receded. And the moment, and we noted that the water has receded, the land was dry, very dry, yet Noah was still in the ark. He did not leave the ark. He was waiting for God to say leave. You know, I was telling nga if I was there in the ark and I saw there was no more flood, why would I want to stay inside the ark? And yet Noah was just there waiting for God to give him an instruction to step out of the ark. And when he did step out of the ark, he built an altar, a huge altar, thanking God for everything. All the clean animals and all the clean birds, he made a huge offering, and God smelled the aroma and was pleased. And there he promised via rainbow that he will never flood the world again. And the rainbow, whenever we see it, should remind us that God has not forgotten that promise. So mankind was given a new chance, a new lease in life. Yet sadly, in chapter 9, we saw Noah living his life, building a vineyard, and getting drunk. And we saw there Ham, right? It was Ham. Ham defiling Noah, and based on the three possibilities, I take the position that Noah, Ham, went to bed with the mother, thus gave birth to Canaan, who was cursed by Noah. Then in chapter 10, which we're briefly looking, is the genealogy again. So you see chapter 5 and chapter 10 is genealogy. I put this graphic so that, you know, as we go to Genesis, we will be reminded, we can easily remember. If someone says chapter 1, then you know what's happening. Chapter 2, it's creation. Chapter 3, it's the fall. Chapter 4 was the murder. Chapter 5 is genealogy, right? Then the second part is basically Noah's Ark. Chapter 6 is the sons of God married the daughters of men. Chapter 7 is the actual flood. Chapter 8 is the flood receded already, and Noah built an altar thanking God, and God made a promise. Chapter 9 is the sin of Ham, right? Now chapter 10 is the genealogy. Genesis is divided basically into Genesis 1 to 11 and 12 to 52. So the 11th chapter is the Tower of Babel. So that's basically the first half of Genesis. So for easy memory of Genesis 1 to 11, I drew this way. So as we continue Genesis, whenever we start a new chapter, I will run through this again. Para lang, it really keeps us, you know, I was just running it last night in my bed. I can easily remember everything already. So, So we're looking at Genesis chapter 10 and 11 today. The title of the message today is Stop Manipulating God. You know, a lot of times we like manipulating people. Knowingly or unknowingly. We manipulate people by trying to be nice to them in order they be nice to us. Trying to respect them so that they may respect us. Trying to win their favor so that we can get their favors too. We try to manipulate people in a manner that the outcome would be advantageous to us, right? And that's very, very common. But the sad part is this: a lot of us, we manipulate not only people, we try to manipulate God. And this is what we'll see today in our message. As we look at Genesis chapter 10 and 11, in Genesis chapter 10, basically what's happening here is the blessings of God was continuing. Despite the sins, remember in chapter 9 what happened? Man, people were sinning all over again. And we looked at Genesis chapter 9 and said the sins of Noah and the wordings that was used in Noah's sin was similar, if not exact, as what was happening in Genesis chapter 1. Which means what? Man cannot stop sinning and sinning and sinning and sinning and sinning. And that's why the message last week was stop sinning. And we have the power to do so. Now, despite that sin that was prevalent in mankind, the sin that's so gripping, the sin that seems to have that has shackled over us, we realize that our sin does not stop the blessings of God. That's one thing great about our God. He does not love us less despite our sins. And if that can only sink to you, that's something really awesome. He does not love us a bit less, even though we sin. That's why in Genesis chapter 10, despite the sin, that's grievous already. What Ham did, right? Going to bed with the mom while the father was drunk and having a child. It shows in chapter 10, the blessings of the Lord continues. And we read Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. It says, and I'll just read the whole chapter. Now this is the records of the generation of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the son of Noah. The sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer and Magog, Madai and Javan, Tubal and Meshesh and Tiras. The sons of Gomer were Asherah, Ripha, and Tagarma. The sons of Javan were Rishash and Tarshish, Kittim and Donanim. From this, the coastlines of the nations were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their families, into their nations. The sons of Ham were Cush and Mizraim, and Put and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba and Havilah and Sabath and Ramah and Zabteka. And the sons of Ramah were Sheba and Dedan. Now Cush became the father of Nimrod. He became the mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh and the land of Shinar. From the land he went forth into Assyria and built Nineveh and Rehoboth, Ir and Keilah, and reasoned between Nineveh and Keilah, that is a great city. Mizraim became the father of Ludim and Ananim and Lehabim and Naptuhim and Pathturizim and Kashluhim, for which came the Philistines and Kaphorim. Canaan became the father of Shido, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites and the Amorites and the Girgashites, and the Hivites and the Arkites and the Sinites, and the Arvadites and the Zemarites and the Hamathites, and afterwards the families of the Canaan were spread abroad. The territories of the Canaan extended from Zidon as you go towards Gegar, as far as Gaza, as you go towards Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah, the Zebolim, and as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, by their hands, by their nations. Also to Shem, the father of